Hello, this is Valerie Moore from the Frederian Gazette. Thank you for continuing to join us every week, despite the dark nature of our reenactment of the controversial book Say I Slew Them Not, written by Kingsley Montefello, edited by Alexander Phillips, and narrated by Pepper Holloway. If you've enjoyed our program so far and want to support Three Lesbians in a Phone Booth, please donate to our Ko-Fi at www.ko-fi.com/The Frederian Gazette. Content warnings for this episode include colonial violence, references to mass death, trauma, panic attack, grief, loss of loved ones, suggested substance usage, minimization of grief, and references to suicide. This program has been sponsored by Henry Strickler's Portrait Gallery. Come and see our special exhibit displaying the portraits and writings of the Children of Liberty members, including, but not limited to, Thaddeus McMillan, the Tossier family, and Margaret Leland. We now pass the mic to Pepper Holloway, who will be reading Lead Prosecutor in Kingsley's Trial Takes Own Life, Trial Put on Hold. October 23rd, 1829, Icatel District, Bercasa, Hiva. Grief is an all-consuming monster that cannot be slain. It can only be endured. During the first few weeks after Siegfried's Day, I wasn't sure if I could, without Devon. We were close once. Another friend destroyed by Hevian cruelty and indifference. I paced in our crowded room. The smoke and muted gunfire of Siegfried's Day swarmed around me. Devon, Amy, and Pip's playful bickering about dinner occasionally breaking through. Pip wanted shepherd's pie, and Devon, leaning on one crutch, offered to make it. Amy declared that she didn't want to be poisoned. One glance at them as they inched closer and closer to each other. Devon being his usual charming self, one hand resting on her hip as the other held on to the crutch, and Amy trying hard not to smile, and I thought about poor Ernest and Asia sprawled across the road. "Please, Amy," begged Pip, pulling at her hand. Sean gave me his hand. Amy asked if I minded shepherd's pie, and my ears fell as I felt small. Small and insignificant. The world was too big. How was I supposed to survive it? Too powerless to help a screaming Asia, too pathetic to escape the smell of smoke and fresh blood. "I can't do this," I whispered. "I can't." Pip spoke, but his words were a mute drumming against my mind. I just can't, God damn it, leave me alone!" I shouted before retreating into a corner, clinging to the walls as I slid to the floor. My chamber was empty. "Reload! Quickly! Quickly!" I snorted at the smell of smoke, and the armored Hevians pushed our left flank. Asia and Ernest ran away. Asia fell down, down, down. I drew my knees to my chest, and I rested my head in my hands, the world painfully retracting, the world closing in, closer, closer, closer. I couldn't do this. I wasn't Siegfried. Death would have been better. Sandy stumbled as he ran towards Asia. Who was I to ask them to die? Who was I? "Hey, Kings, it's me, Dev." I gave a start. We were the only ones in the room. "You gave us quite a scare," he said, awkward crutching before me. "I can't do it, Dev." He took off his cap and scratched the top of his head before saying, "Oh, Kings, I know." I impulsively swatted his hand away as it rested on my arm. "You're hurting, Kings. We all see it. I told Heron. I know things aren't right. They were my friends, too." My ears fell and my shaking hands clasped my knees as if my life depended on it. "I'm not gonna lie. I thought about following Margaret to Furdurn," he said, forcing himself to face me despite his shame. "Take Amy and Pip and run. Not like I'd be missed." A sad, humorless chuckle escaped his lips. "But I couldn't leave them, and I know you can't either. If we can't leave, then we have to fight." "I'm not Siegfried," I began, but Devon cut me off. "We don't need Siegfried right now. We need you. Someone who can help us survive this rough patch. I know you can do it. We'll just take it one step at a time. Together." "And if I can't?" "There's nothing we can't do as long as we help each other," he said, forcing a smile. "Now come on, Kings." He put on his cap as he rose and offered me his hand. "Just get up. That's all I ask." Smoke and screams and gunfire, my wounded eye throbbing with head-splitting pain, and one by one they died. They all died. "You can do this, Kings," he said, trying to keep his voice steady, but I could hear the crack, the fear. What if I didn't rise? What would he do? Everyone else was gone. I grabbed his hand, and he pulled me up before handing me a cup of tea. "Drink this and relax. Take a second to catch your breath." I wrapped my shaking hands around the warm cup and I took a sip, closing my eyes as the soothing liquid slid down my throat. Gary's hot breath brushed the back of my neck. Murmurs of pain and the sickening thuds of bullets meeting flesh echoed in my ears. Thank you, I said, taking another sip. Like you haven't helped me 100 times. I'm sorry, I haven't been sleeping. I'm tired. Devin rubbed the back of his neck. You should talk to Heron. He could give you something to help you sleep, just until you're sleeping on your own again. I asked him to help Pip. Amy and I are doing our best, but he's not sleeping and he's not eating. Neither are you. Ernest blushed and Asia grinned as they walked onto the dance floor, the band playing a beautiful waltz, and we all cheered. It was supposed to be a long and happy marriage. You have to take Amy and Pip to Ferdinand Dev. They can't stay here. Kings, we can't leave. You have to. No, Kings, we can't. I took in his desperation and his despair, and I frowned. I'm sorry, Devin. It's a small price to pay for freedom, right? I put the cup precariously on the edge of the stove and abruptly turned towards the door. I need to take a walk, Dev. I'll go with you. No, please. I need to be alone. I tripped down the stairs, trying to avoid stepping on the old ladies who gathered there to sew, but my wounded eye ruined my depth perception. I put on my coat as I walked through the front door. Rain pounded against the muddy streets, plastering my clothes to my scales. I wore my fedora down low, my trench coat collar popped up, and my hands in my pockets, one hand tightly curled around a revolver, although given my obscure vision, it was useless at the moment. It would take me months to adjust to my new vision and learn how to aim with it properly. As I walked down the wet, muddy streets, Sandy took Asia's hand and guided her to the dance floor, Devin laughing at the fact this was the first time he'd ever worn a suit. I'd never seen him so happy. Ernest should have taken Asia to Ferdinand. I can't.
Ah, Mr. Montevello, said a lightly accented and crisp voice. Just the icky I wanted to see. I jumped at the sudden intrusion on my left side, my blind side, and whirled around with a savage curse in Italy, pointing my revolver at the intruder. The door of an ornately decorated white carriage opened, revealing Sebastian Wallace, Plumet party leader, seated on a satin cushion and dressed to the nines for what appeared to be an extravagant party. His white-gloved hands held a crisp top hat, and he draped a gray cape and white scarf over his double-breasted tuxedo. Do come in, he invited, ignoring my revolver. It's frightful out there. I looked up and down the street, expecting to be trampled by charging police officers. I assure you this isn't an ambush, he said with a taxidermist's smile. I'm here on behalf of President McAllister himself. Is that supposed to comfort me? I asked as I lowered my revolver. Rain rolled off my fedora and dripped onto my snout. I care more about entreating you. All the spineless cowards in his administration. Of course, McAllister sent his treacherous rival, Sebastian Wallace, the traitor and usurper. His Dardanian mother was the only thing standing between him and the presidency, even though he preferred to blame the pettiness of Hevians. McAllister sent him to me, expecting the impetuous upstart to take the blame for a disastrous peace agreement. Instead, Sebastian did what he did best. He put his own needs first. Come, Mr. Montevello, don't you want to know what it's like to ride in luxury? With great reluctance, I put my revolver away and climbed into the carriage. He closed the door with a snap and hit the roof with his silver-handled cane. The handle twisted into the shape of an arafundi, the winged serpents of the Ignis Desert. We took off with a quiver, and Sebastian discreetly drew his blades and cape away from my wet and muddy self. I'm surprised you're walking around so freely, he said, his light accent dancing from syllable to syllable. I feared I was going to have to go from house to house looking for you. I faintly recognized the accent as Dardanian. The stressed consonants were off as if they had moved the letters slightly to the left, and the hard consonants to cut flesh. What do you want? Sebastian's soft gray eyes stared me down as he brushed wisps of blonde hair out of his face. It must be hard, he said gently, and I narrowed my eyes. You have my sympathy. You do. To be the sole survivor of Siegfried's Day? To have all your friends die around you whilst you escape? I don't think I'd be able to live with myself. I don't need your sympathy, malfrat, I snapped as Ernest's revolver clicked for the last time, his blood splashing against the cobblestones. But still you have it, he said. Instead of rejecting it, why don't you put it to good use? Thought you were here on McAllister's orders, I said. I have McAllister's permission to negotiate, but I'm not here for him. I'm here for all of Hiva and its many colonies. You haven't aided Al Cahoon much. He stared at me impatiently and said, Just because we can mutually benefit each other doesn't mean I'll tolerate your bratty nature. What is McAllister offering? In short, nothing you'll accept, he said, pulling a thread off his knee and discarding it. I, however, come promising miracles. So this was what my friends had died for. An arrogant ass who thought he could use my pain for his benefit. Siegfried's grand stand in exchange for what? A few token words of support and a fake fight in the chamber to change absolutely nothing? McAllister may be president. Sebastian rolled over my silence. But I own Dejon Chamber. It will pass any bill with my blessing, kill any bill I despise, and will break McAllister over my knee if I demand it. Doesn't matter what sort of blackmail you have on McAllister or other chamber members, they'll never liberate Kilbradra. Nor would I, he said, adding, not yet. My friends didn't die for this, I said, about to throw the door open and leap from the carriage when he blocked my way with his cane. Think of it as a stepping stone. The Hevian Hill, the Kilbradra, he said, with a conciliatory tilt of the head, is in no condition to stand on its own. Surely you know that. Its economy is unstable, its government and law enforcement run by Hevians. Your friends, the IFM, are thriving in a war zone they created. You need time to clean house and stabilize the region. I can give you that time. I can't dismantle the Hevian Empire, but I can dismantle second-class citizenry. Was that a prize worthy of my friend's sacrifice? How? I asked hesitantly. I can restore the right to vote and the right to representation within Dejon Chamber. We had our own chamber once. Yes, but I see no point in resurrecting it, Sebastian dismissed. What of desegregation and equal wages? Aren't you greedy? It's little compared to what my people deserve. It'll be hard to convince the others to vote for desegregation. But you own those chambers, I said. He smiled like a spider after feeling his web tingle. I didn't say it would be impossible. I said it would be difficult. They'll ask for the ILA to disband and to turn in its weaponry. The ILA was formed to fight for Ikatel independence. Until that is achieved, the ILA will exist in one form or another. He sniffed contemptuously and said, make sure this form minds itself while I fight for your rights. Politicians need a common enemy, but only if they make themselves useful at the right time. McAllister will agree to all of this? I asked skeptically. He wouldn't dare risk jeopardizing our coalition a mere month after his presidential victory. You would? He's not my president, Sebastian explained before stomping his cane on the floor and sitting up. What do you say? If I promise to hand the Ickies everything you asked for, will you help me? Whenever he tried to meet my gaze, he avoided my bandaged eye. What could I possibly help you with? Make me the heroic Hevian who managed to negotiate peace where McAllister could not. And turn the Plume party into an Ikatel party, I said. Don't you want the Ikatel to decide who will be our next president? He asked as he nonchalantly traced the Arafundi's head, and his eyes flashed with hunger. I see. The ever-grateful Ikatel elect their savior, the great Sebastian Wallace, I mocked. They'll elect me because I'm good at what I do. Playing politics? Coming through on my promises. I'm a powerful and important friend to have. You can't afford to cross me. Don't waste your breath with empty threats, Mr. Wallace. After all, you rode into the dreaded Ikatel district to track me down in the teeming rain. It's clear who truly needs who here. Is that a no? Asked Sebastian with annoyed boredom. Who will they send in your place? The butcher? I wish. Sebastian scoffed before catching himself. No, she's needed in the Hevian Hills, but it will be someone cut from the same cloth. He'll never end, I muttered, blinking in surprise as I realized he had taken me the long way back to my tenement. Not unless we work together, Mr. Montevello, said Sebastian, resting a gloved hand on my wet knee. Sean offered me his hand, and I let him die, just as I let Gary die. If I couldn't save their lives, maybe I could salvage their deaths, give my people something that would justify our loss. Dazzle me with your showmanship in the chamber, and then maybe we have a deal. Don't worry, I'll put on quite a show. You've just heard Lead Prosecutor in Kingsley's trial Tate's Own Life. Trial put on hold from Say I Slew Them Not by Kingsley Montevello. Tonight's episode was read by Pepper Holloway and was sponsored by Henry Strickler's Portrait Gallery, home to the Hall of Presidents and the special exhibit of members of the Children of Liberty. Be sure to follow us on Instagram and Blue Sky at Fredarian Gazette, and go to our website www.thefredariangazette.com for episode extras. Join us next Wednesday at 5 p.m. for episode 21. Hundreds gather in Monet Square to protest the trial and the police conduct on Siegfried's Day.